right, people, we are back. It's now coming up on 10 minutes after 11 o'clock. We'll be going until about 10 minutes to 12. We have a special guest in the studio, and I explained to my guest already. Ruby is on the next side. Reesa Ramlogan-Jodha, a long name by RRJ.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you.
She said good morning.
Fellow RJ.
Good morning
fellow
to you.
RJ.
All right, so she heard you. I mean, we operating without the headphones and things because we don't really take calls. So I will communicate with her, okay? Executive Vice President at OWTU, appointed in 2019. So she's, like, as she told me, a new kid on the block. First time out of the corral in this particular post. But she has a responsibility also because she's working with T&TEC. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct.
All right. So welcome to the studios at M104.7. I'm sorry that we got our times a little bit skewed. We normally put 10 to 11 as our time for the unions. Every Tuesday, the program director has put in place so that the unions of Trinidad and Tobago could come to the station and start to edify. Because, one of the problems we have in this country is misinformation. In a lot of cases, people don't get all the facts. They get the facts that is presented either by the company, especially when it's state-owned. And the unions are muzzled in a sense, because media houses in the country don't want to get involved in coming to talk about anything for the fear that they will get victimized and robbed of business. I mean, we could tell you about that firsthand. So, welcome to the studios. I mean, it's nice for you to be here. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the nitty-gritty. Tell us what got you involved in the union. You're a liberator or you're just an opposition person that just like to oppose?
All right. Good morning to Mr. Amar. First of all, let me say thank you for the opportunity given to the OWTU to be here today. It is indeed a pleasure. What got me into the union? Ever since small growing up, I always had that desire to become a lawyer. It didn't quite turn out that way, but where I sit now, I am in a position where I can represent workers. And this is because, somebody has to stand in defense of workers. Somebody has to stand for what is right, for justice. And it is my natural love and my compassion for workers and my desire, to serve that would have attracted me to the union. And thankfully, I'm here today. And it's been, as you rightly said, my first term on the executive. It has been no easy road. It's a challenge, but I'm up for the challenge, and I have been giving it my all.
The one thing I think the program director will be happy to know is that there are maybe several women on this executive now.
That's correct. Actually, there are 2 women, the second vice president and myself.
And basically, your appointment is by an election, correct?
That is correct.
You don't get picked like the president of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The leader of the OWTU don't say, come, let me give you work.
It's a fair process.
It's a fair process.
And every member has the right to attend the elections where they could either support or make objections or nominations, as the case might be, but it's a very fair process.
You had any opposition when you went up? I mean, were there other people vying for your post?
No, there were absolutely no oppositions. And just to be clear, there are 3 executive officers actually who hail from T&TEC. It is myself, executive vice president. One of my colleagues he works at Distribution Tobago, Comrade Marcus Cordner. He's also an executive vice president. And our long-standing serving executive, Comrade Peter Burke, he's also an executive vice president and a former employee at T&TEC. He's now retired.
Well, that's a nice foundation for us to start a bill. It shows that from 2019 to now, you would have had access to a lot of the grouses or concerns or problems. One of the big things I've heard the OWTU or JTAM president and the president of the Full Workers Training Union talk about is this bargaining, negotiation, and the long delay before this could happen, and 0, 0, 0 as the famous words. So tell me in your own words, I mean, what has happened in the last 2 years under the pandemic? Okay. Because I think some of the workers was very, what should I put it by, when they started to talk about mandate. how do we get it? Otherwise, you're not going to get the work. We can put you on furlough and you wouldn't get paid. And
Yes.
how did the workers feel when that happened?
All right. So first of all, before I get into that discussion, I would like to say a pleasant good morning to all workers across Trinidad and Tobago.
Perfect.
I would also like to bring special greetings to my comrades at T&TEC. Mr. Amar, if you would permit me, I would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank the workers at T&TEC for their dedication and their unwavering commitment since March of 2020, which of course was the start of the pandemic. It has been no easy road. These workers, both in the field and in the office, they were faced with challenges just like the ordinary citizens that were related to the pandemic. You had the fear of what would happen based on the exposure. Then you also had the issue of childcare. You had T&TEC workers being out in the field during the heights of the pandemic. But I must say, despite all of this, the workers at T&TEC, they stepped up to the challenge and they ensured a reliable supply throughout the entire country for the period when it was most needed. Now, this is a time when kids would have been at home school, parents would have been working from home, the supplies at hospitals and COVID-19 facilities were of utmost importance. It was critical. And I'm proud to say that as the executive overseeing the T&TEC comrades, they never disappointed. They were always ready and willing to maintain the good name of T&TEC by doing what they do best. Now, sometimes people take for granted when they flick a switch, boom, lights come on. But they don't take into consideration the hard work, the amount of risks that these workers are exposed to, and the long hours that go into ensuring that they can get what they actually pay for. So again, to my comrades at T&TEC, I must say thank you for a job well done and the good job that you continue to do. Now, the pandemic in itself was no easy feat for the union. It was an issue at the start of the pandemic to actually get the commission at the table to sit and discuss how parties were going to approach the situation that was before us. This is something that it just came by surprise. No one was expecting it. And a number of measures had to be put in place. Eventually, with the intervention of the President General, Comrade Ansel Roger, the commission was instructed, mind you, to meet with the union at a time like this, when workers were exposed. We eventually met, and after numerous consultations, both parties were able to implement a number of measures that would have successfully taken us to where we are through the pandemic. Unfortunately, I believe we had 6 comrades passing away during the period as a result of COVID-19. It is very unfortunate, but we're still thankful that we were able to minimize the numbers at a time like that. I mean, 6 is a great loss to the organization. It could have been worse, but because of the work that the union put in to ensure that measures were in place, I'm proud to say that we were able to contain the effects of the virus.
That is a good thing, because that's one of the questions I was going to ask you when I did the comparison, because, under the police, which in a sense T&TEC operates in a kind of quasi level, because you're meeting the people, you're going outside there, you're in the frontal position, you're the head of the class.
Yes.
Police was just like that, and they lost close to 30 plus people. So it's kind of remarkable, I mean, that the numbers was that low. And I also want to thank T&TEC, because we have had our own experiences with T&TEC. And I want to tell you, they have all been good. We had a breakdown here once, and we made a call. The high tension wire, something went wrong with it.
Right.
And those guys worked tirelessly to finish the job. Obviously, there will always be, guys who have their little problems and bring it on the job. I mean, we saw some of that attitude, but hey, we are all humans.
That's correct.
If Will Smith could walk up and slap the man live on TV, and then come and cry and move on. We have to tell ourselves that in Trinidad and Tobago, we have some issues that we have to deal with, and as big people, we have to appreciate that, human instinctive behavior is that when you're under pressure. And T&TEC would have been under pressure because I'm studying by my wife, my children.
That's correct.
And then worse again when it came to the point where they started to say, well, hey, either or. And a man buy a house and he have a car and he have a child in university and he asking himself, what the hell wrong with this? But what am I missing in this picture?
And that is correct. And at a time when the country needed us the most as an essential service, we were there.
Yes.
And then came the point of this mandatory vaccination.
Wow, yeah.
And workers now, we had workers who reached that place where they were willing to resign.
Oh, Lord.
They were willing to resign because the reality is, and quite a number of workers, not only in T&TEC, throughout the country, they were not comfortable with what was being purported as a vaccine.
Yeah.
Right? And at the end of the day, the choice still remained whether or not I wanted to choose to become vaccinated. But here you are, while you're saying that you're not enforcing it on me, in essence, what you're doing is now putting me in a position where if I don't get vaccinated, I don't know what is going to happen come January the 17th, February the 17th. And a number of workers had to now weigh their options because they have their families to support.
Correct.
Right? So while some workers would have given in, there were quite a number of workers who stood their ground.
Right.
And they realized that as workers, they realized the power that they have, and that's something very critical. That workers need to understand the powers that they have as a worker. No management not going to go into the field and do the type of work that these workers do to risk their lives on a daily basis. So in understanding that power that they hold, they stood their ground. And I'm happy to say, obviously, because of the pushback throughout the country that was spearheaded also by GTAM, we are at a place now where it seems to be no longer an issue, whether you're vaccinated or you're not vaccinated.
Well, I'm so glad because I stood strong on my foundation, like Ruby Gem on the next end, because we also started the pushback movement. She was the one that initiated the discussion.
Yes.
And basically, we ended up pushing the whole issue. And I think that kind of facilitated. That was like the embryo.
Yes.
And other people started to say, well, okay, if these guys on the radio could be talking like this, let's see whether we have to take a kind of similar page. And we are happy that...
Come on board, yes.
Yeah, we were happy to lead the charge. And today we are proud of our stand because at the end of it all, Trinidad and Tobago, the people now, I think, have a better understanding and appreciation for what government is, you know.
Yes.
Before they were taking it for granted that, hey, what the government said, the government, you had to do.
No.
But as Ruby had tried to explain, mandate only gets in place when you follow because it's a mandate.
That is correct.
It's not a dictate.
That is correct.
We're not in China.
Yes.
Where the Chinese government could just move in and say, lock down this place. It don't work so. And we have a constitution that we have to live by. And of course, the union has agreements that are signed off under terms 2 year, 3 year, or whatever period.
3 years, correct.
That the management has to respect because that's why they call it mutual negotiation. We sit down around a table and we say A, B, you say C, D. We say we don't agree with C, we'll accept D, but we want A. And they say, well, okay, A, we'll give you this. And they say, no, I want a little bit. And it's a compromise. Okay.
Yes.
So, to all of the T&TEC workers, I too also want to say thanks to them because they have, I think they have treated Trinidad and Tobago very well.
Yes.
Irrespective of what we could say about all the public services, all the utilities, the one utility that I think stands very strong and has given and has shown that they have paid attention to their corporate responsibility from the point of view of us, meaning the consumers, is that they have done a damn good job in making sure they fulfill the infrastructure and keep things working. And we see them working continuously. And I like the point you made about the risk factor.
Yes.
Because we know that there have people, individuals, humans like ourselves, who went out there and pushing a wire by a mango tree. Although T&TEC puts that up, and by the way, T&TEC don't give you none of their business. Let me just tell you. By the way, when the fella push it up, he doesn't understand the hazard. It's like the fellas who's running on the trucks at carnival time,
yes,
trying to push the wire up because either the thing is too low or they want to stand up on top, and it's only 18 feet or whatever. When you take the whole thing, it's 25, so you have an extra 7 feet you have to get up, and man lying down, and they don't understand the potential of the death to them.
That is correct.
And we have had some T&TEC workers who have lost their lives.
That is correct.
By getting electrocuted or if you want to call it high tension shocking. And it has happened, all right? We are now at a point and place where the country is now more or less resettling back down. Your negotiations at this time, are you up to date? Is T&TEC up to date with the union from the point of view of the period Are you getting 2022 wages now, or are you still getting, like some people saying, 2018 or 2017? Where is your negotiation?
Well, to be quite honest, T&TEC workers, we are stuck on 2014 salaries.
Wow.
Our last negotiated period was 2012 to 2014. I think that the judgment which came out of the court, I think it was on the 18th of February, sometime around there, the public is well aware of that judgment. And I must say that was a very unfair judgment. And I say so because the reality of it is that, you see, people out in the public tend to think that T&TEC workers are well paid. Hail out to my comrades passing there. Yeah. That T&TEC workers are very well paid. But the reality is we are stuck on 2014 salaries. Cost of living is going up. You have everything in this economy, it's spiraling up. And we now have to struggle on a salary from 2014. Now, we're talking about a 2014 salary when management would have fixed themselves, huh?
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this is a period that was pre-COVID-19.
Correct.
But yet still, that judgment spoke of the difficulties associated with COVID-19.
Right.
Right? The reality is, if that is how this was viewed, then it leaves one to wonder when we get into the negotiation period, which carries the period of the pandemic, then what is going to happen? Is it that they are going to take from workers what was already given? Workers continue to give them their all. And the thing about it is that judgment acknowledged that the workers at T&TEC, they were deserving of an increase in salary. But here we are, judges at the industrial court, which is supposed to be unbiased. They have... The situation is that they are politically appointed and they have to please their political masters. So it leaves one to wonder really and truly what is taking place even at the level of the industrial court. And that is something that definitely has to be reviewed, because not only is it affecting the judgment with regards to negotiation, but there are a number of other judgments that are being affected as a result of what one would term political interference at the level of the industrial court. And I mean, I must say that despite that unfair judgment, the workers at T&TEC, they continue to give their all in service and duty because they understand the responsibility that has been placed upon them. But our President General would have made it very clear at the rally on the 19th of March that we are willing to take that judgment all the way to the Court of Appeal.
Is it possible to do that?
Definitely.
Because I heard him say that, and I was telling myself that this court, which is an industrial court, really at this industrial position, I didn't see it in civil and all the other matters where, there is jurisprudence that it could take the matter and go to the Privy Council, as the case may be. I didn't think you could do that with the Labour Court in Trinidad. Yeah, well, our lawyers would have reviewed the judgment and the advice was given, and it's based on that advice that the President General would have spoken at the rally. The thing about it, this sets a precedence for similar judgments that may come out of the industrial court, and it places workers in a very bad position, right? So that is something that definitely, as a union, we cannot just leave that. And it's not necessarily about the 000. It's some other critical aspects of that judgment that definitely is very questionable. When I hear you speak about 2014, are you saying that there are two periods that has not been negotiated pre-pandemic, 14 to 17, 17 to 20?
Yeah, well, it's 12 to 14. Then what came out of the court was 15 to 17. We have outstanding 18 to 20 and 21 to 23.
Okay, so 21 to 23, I'm not overly worried. I mean, we know that will have to be treated in a particular manner because the reality is that everybody suffered.
That's correct.
And I wouldn't believe that the union will go down the road of wanting to play hardball between 21 to 23, but I find it very strange that 12 to 14, you're saying? You know?
Yes. Well, we are 12 to 14 Our comrades in the other association, the Estate Police Association, they have for periods even before 12 to 14.
You serious?
And there's something called internal equity, and And even though that they were stuck in a period before OWTU 12 to 14, they received the same judgment, 000. SSA, same thing, 000. Yeah.
And you know, it kind of strange. I mean, is this made when the unions sit down together with management to negotiate for wages? Is the financials of the company put on the table?
Certainly not. That seems to be a hidden secret.
But this is a government-run institution where the Freedom of Information Act must be able to mandate, and I use in their words, or better yet, like you say, instruct. You tell me that
Yes.
they were instructed to meet with you.
Yes.
I am at the point of asking why the hell they can't instruct them to put the balance sheet on the table, because it's not a secret. You're not asking to get their money. You asking to be paid in commensuration of either the profit or loss of the company, and then we'll sit down and understand why the loss is. If the loss is because of me, okay, let's see what me, meaning the union workers, have to do. If the loss is because of you, meaning you, the management, screwed up because you didn't put the right switch in the right place, or you buy a switch from a partner, and the switch going bad in less than the time it's supposed to go bad, or you put the wrong wire, or somebody run the wrong calculations. You know what I mean? That is in management now, because there's two sides to this equation. One is consumption, meaning I and you, and the output for that. And the next is running the business, which of course receives $200 million every year from the state.
Right. And I think that there is a whole lot that has been going on in T&TEC, and the public is not aware.
Let's make them aware then.
And it is very frightening. And now you spoke of Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. But the thing is, there is also something called good industrial relations practices,
Right.
which is supposed to see parties sitting at a table, having open conversations in good faith to be able to, progress the organization to that place where it has to be. And that has been missing at T&TEC for quite some time now. Imagine they submitted proposals to the court. They claimed that they could not afford an increase in any form because of their financial status. But there was nothing to support that
What the
claim
hell?
being submitted.
You serious?
Yet still, workers received 000.
And the judge accept that?
Well, to be quite honest, at a place, being at that place, I would have felt that it would have been critical for the court to instruct the commission,
Let me see a balance sheet.
provide the information to support your claim.
Of course.
Unfortunately, that was not done.
I just say that's the fair way.
That's correct.
You're telling me I can't get no more money. I don't have a problem, If you're red, you're red. And if you're red, you're dead.
Right.
But at the end of it all, you can't tell me I'm dead and you're not showing me that I'm red.
No, yeah, I must just lie down and
Fall
close
down,
my
yeah,
eye.
yeah. No.
Yeah.
Have you guys taken any action about getting this? You see, the good part about it is that who is the auditors for T&TEC,
No, not at this point, no. I can't
Okay,
say off.
that is something you have to find out and you have to let me know.
Yes, I would.
The second thing is the Auditor General of Trinidad and Tobago, I think, plays a role in all of the statutory functioning institutions. These documents have to be presented to Imbert.
Yes.
Imbert, who's boast in the clip I played earlier this morning, he says, well, Tom Snahi, thank you very much. I just want to let everybody know that we put $100 million to fix the roads. And then Mr. Nunes called and said in 2000 and something, they had some problems down in Point. And in no time flat, Imbert fined $50-something million to get them to fix
Sort
the
it
road
out.
because there's not
Yeah.
a problem. The prioritization is seeming to be a problem.
Yes, it is very much so. And if I may just shed some light on what has been happening at T&TEC. Now, there is a feeding frenzy taking place at T&TEC.
Serious.
And I think that members of the public at this point in time, they should be aware, because if members of the public, if they have been observing what is taking place, they would realize that there is a parallel workforce that is working. You see, one of the major problems we have at T&TEC is the misuse of the clause that deals with contract labor. When parties sat over across the table and agreed to the clause which deals with contract labor, I mean, the union did identify that the need would arise from time to time to bring on contract labor.
At every level?
No, and that's I mean, I'll touch on that as well. I'll touch on that as well. Now, this contract labor is supposed to be used based on the volume of work and the ability of the regular workforce to meet the demands.
Right.
The clause, Mr. Amar, states very clearly that T&TEC would not contract out the works that are normally performed by the employees.
Right.
But it is quite evident that this is not the case. I spoke of the members of the public making observations, and they would realize that there is a particular contractor who is always seen on T&TEC lines doing vegetation management. It's a yellow and black vehicle, and I really want members of the public to become aware of what is taking place, right? It is so bad that these contracts are not supposed to exceed a period of 6 months, and what you have happening is that some of these contracts go up to periods of 18 months.
T&TEC has a team of people that does this vegetation management as in-house?
Most definitely.
Okay.
The commission spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to train our in-house staff to do vegetation management, or what we commonly call line clearing.
Yes.
Right? This is training of a world-class standard. I think they had some Canadians come in and they conducted the training so that when these guys go out there, it's not just about clearing a vine from a liner.
Yeah.
It is a training to allow these workers to observe the surroundings on the infrastructure and ensure that if a tree falls, it doesn't come within the zone of where the line is. But here you have contractors, they are being given these jobs. So much so, let me tell you how bad it is. Outages are required to do line clearing. Sometimes you have the in-house workers being sent into the field awaiting an outage. Outage and happening. When you do check, Mr. Amar, is because the persons required to do the outage was sent to facilitate the contractors while the workers remain idle, waiting for the outage so that they could do what they have to do.
I hope what you're telling me there is fiction and not fact.
That is, all of it is facts. All of it is
factual. And the
factual.
management at T&TEC knows this?
Of course, but you see, they have to sustain these contracts because of affiliations.
Money.
That is correct. The love for money is the root of all evil, right? You have contracts being given to contractors for periods of up to 18 months. Contractors could guarantee their workers jobs because why? We have work to sustain us for a year and a half, 2 years.
Of course.
Mind you, the type of work that you're getting is substandard work, huh?
Right.
And I mean, I will touch on it in just a while, but that is one of the things that contributed to that outage, that blackout that took place in Trinidad sometime in mid-February. And you see, the citizenry is not aware of these things.
Wow.
I had my membership out in the public, and they had to face some harsh comments from members of the public because as far as the public is concerned, T&TEC is responsible for electricity. So I am out of a supply. You guys are to blame. But the reality is, when we bring all these contractors onto our system, they have to find manpower. When they find manpower, they don't have the training that is required.
True.
They don't have the resources in some instances. In some instances, the work is so much that they give you a fast fix. Right?
Yeah.
And these things cause serious problems. Then you have some people might ask, well, what is the big issue if you have contractors on the system? Well, there's a number of issues actually, yeah. What we're seeing happening now as a result of that is the skillful depletion of the workforce at T&TEC. The general manager at T&TEC went to a joint select committee meeting sometime last year and reported that the existing staff at T&TEC was adequate to ensure the smooth operations of the organization.
Okay.
But what he did not say is that at T&TEC we are critically short-staffed in the field especially. Why? Workers are retiring. Some workers, after dedicating years of service to the organization, they are realizing the downhill spiraling that is taking place at T&TEC. and they opted to take early retirement. Some of the younger ones left for better job opportunities. Instead of filling positions, these positions, what is happening is that contractors are being used in the field, and workers in the office are finding themselves performing additional duties to ensure that the work of the commission could continue. When you compare the number of persons that would have left as opposed to the number of persons that came into the organization, there's a distinct gap, a huge gap. Recruitment is almost non-existent at T&TEC at this point in time. Imagine T&TEC is an organization that is considered an essential service. Yet still, you have workers that are left on continuous contracts in excess of 6-7 years. This is an essential service we're talking about, huh? The fact that these contracts run for so long, it tells you that these positions ought to be filled, but the management at T&TEC is not filling the positions. And the thing about it, there is a board. Well, the board was dissolved at the end of last year. At this point in time, we don't have a board in place. That's a couple of months.
And Mr. Imbert family was the chairman of this board?
That's a good question, Mr. Amar. That's a good question. But the thing is, T&TEC is an essential service, and in a period where we are facing a pandemic, critical decisions are to be made. There's not a board in place at T&TEC.
No board as we speak?
There's no board for 3 months now, and it is allowing the management
I better put in my application.
You never could tell what could happen.
If I get to become the chairman at T&TEC, we fix this thing, you know.
Well,
for now.
Trust me, it needs fixing.
Before we move on, has the union, based on all you're telling me, I'm talking about this line problem, the clearing of the vegetation, the issue of the manpower shortages, have you guys put pen to paper and copied or sent that to the Minister of Public Utilities?
Well, that is a very interesting question that you asked there, and I'll tell you why. At the last general election, there was a meeting with the minister, and that meeting was basically an introductory meeting, and there was supposed to be a continuation of that meeting.
So stop for a minute. The minister can't be the one there now, because remember, he only come in like Bali in the end here.
That is
it had to be Antoine or one of them before.
No. I'm sorry, it's a local government election.
All right.
My apologies.
You see, I have to make sure I keep you in tab.
And I do appreciate that, because I don't want to give members of the public wrong information.
Right, so that's why I'm checking you.
Yes, so I appreciate that.
So go ahead now.
So that meeting took place. It was an introductory meeting, and there was supposed to be a follow-up meeting with the union to discuss a number of the issues that are facing T&TEC.
Right.
You're talking about a year and a half, going on 2 years after.
Yeah,
we keep writing the line minister, the Honorable Mr. Gonzalez. And unfortunately, to date,
nothing.
We cannot get a hearing as the union at that level. Right? Now, there are times, because of the absence of a board, you have to escalate whatever the situation is. You write to the minister, there's no response. Sometimes if he responds to a letter, it takes about 3 months for him to respond, and then to confirm a meeting, obviously
another 3 months.
Well, unfortunately we haven't had a confirmed meeting, so that tells you the place that we are at right now.
So you have right now pending for him. I'm sure after this conversation here today, you'll get a call from him.
And we will welcome that, to be quite honest. Probably this is the channel that we had to take to get the ear of the minister.
Yeah. And to add to that, I will also be responding to him, together with the other 40 colleagues in the parliament, because I've changed my approach. My approach now is to bring the information to all 41 of them. Whether you're in opposition or in government, make no difference to me. You are members of Trinidad and Tobago's decision-making process.
Yes.
And all of you have to know. So I have taken some notes here that I will just drop a line to him, indicating some of the things I've heard. I will share it with you before I send it to make sure I'm authentic.
Yes.
Because definitely. I don't want to send information to him that is not supportive by your sort of feeling. But I'm truly disappointed to learn this morning that an essential service like this, that the minister, and it would seem as if though there's no organization chart or for this company. I mean, they're talking big about WASA and it overstaff and whatever. And I am saying to you that when I look at T&TEC, this institution is like as old as the government or as old as the country's independent position is. We are celebrating 60 years this year as T&TEC. And in 60 years, I can't imagine that we don't have an organization chart. We know what the board is. We know what the upper management is. We know what the engineering faculty is. What about the rest of the people?
Let me tell you how bad this is, Mr. Amar. In 2017, the commission claimed that they had completed a manpower audit.
Gee whiz, another one.
Now, this is a manpower audit that the union was not a part of. I mean, you're a management. You have the right to manage. If you feel you need to do an audit, fine, no problem. Fast forward to 2019, the commission calls the union to the table to discuss this manpower audit. The union, of course, made itself available. Prior to the meeting, we would have requested the findings of the manpower audit so that when we meet across the table, we could have productive discussions.
Something tangible, yes.
Well, obviously that did not come.
It wouldn't come, yes.
Nonetheless, we attended the meeting. This is in 2019. We are now in 2022.
Yeah.
The commission has not yet provided the union with the findings of that audit. We are at a place where, as a union, we had to go before the industrial court to file an industrial relations offense for the commission's failure to meet in good faith, just to be able to get the commission to make those findings available to the union. What they wanted was to have the union rubber stamp a manpower audit so that they could implement.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't do that.
No.
We're willing to sit down and have discussions with you, you know.
Explain it to me.
But we must have the information before us so we can know. Up till now, the commission, they claim to be in excess of 189 permanent clerical staff. This is not counting the temporary clerical staff. Huh? There's almost 300 temporary workers at T&TEC at this point in time. They claim to be in excess of 189 permanent clerical workers. To this date, they cannot say where these workers are in the organization. They cannot say what duties they are performing. And you know what is the sad thing about it? On a monthly basis, the union continues to observe the commission bringing in clerical workers. But here's what. They bring them under the guise of being field workers. So here you have helpers that are being placed in the office doing clerical work. This is despite the fact that you claim your manpower audit says you have an excess of 189 clerical permanent workers.
They're still bringing
them in.
Still adding more.
Exactly.
And you palm them off as they say as field.
That is correct.
Don't read the meter, although meters are read
so
inside.
on paper, their books would reflect that they have a certain number of persons in the field. But what is happening in actuality is that some of these workers that are supposed to be in the field are really in the office. And here's what. It is no secret that some of these are political appointees.
I hear you.
Yeah?
Friend of a friend of a friend of a friend.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Call up the minister and say, get my partner in there now.
So before we sit and have open discussions about where we really are as an organization, instead you choose, here's what, I will keep that information to my chest. I will continue operating how I am operating, and when the government decides to do whatever they want to do, well, so be the case.
To the best of your recollection, is this the first manpower audit done at T&TEC?
No.
Okay.
There was a manpower audit many years ago.
And you have, the union has that copy of that one?
We would have had we would have the information coming out of the audit, and obviously the union would have been able to treat with that then because of the availability of information, and as a result of that, there wasn't any significant changes taking place in the organization.
If that report is not confidential and it could be shared, I would love to get a copy, because the one thing I'll ask you to ask the management after you review it, see who was the company that got the job, and check and see who is the company that they give the job now, because they should be able to simply tell you, I give it to Robert Amar and Associates, because we know there is a basket of people. No,
but you see, Mr. Amar, the thing about it is this, is himself unto himself, you know.
Okay.
The commission did an audit of themselves.
So it was not external?
No, and it is based on that audit that they want to take actions. Mind you, an audit where they are claiming they did interviews with members of staff and whatnot. And to be quite honest with you, I am a member of staff.
They never talk
I
to
have
you.
never been interviewed. I was at the organization at the time when they claimed the audit was done.
I hear you.
You understand? So it's himself unto himself.
And who would have been the chair at that time that would have given that instruct? to do the audit?
I can't recall off the top of my head who would have been the chairman at that point.
Now
in
you
time.
will understand my kind of way of moving, right? I'm a
Yes.
very empirical kind of guy. I think the union need to start to write a little dossier as to what transpired. Get all your information in one place.
Yeah, that is definitely available, Obviously, I didn't walk prepared with those things today, but those information, the union understands the importance of proper record keeping, letter writing. Sometimes, even the membership will think the union only writing. But what we have to understand is what is on paper today, as my good friend, comrade Harrison Thompson would say, is what becomes evidence in the court tomorrow.
Of course.
Definitely. So we understand the importance of those things.
And at this time with the union, other than wage negotiation, are there any other actions sitting pending in the industrial court in the name of the OWTU in support of issues of T&TEC? Are there any other outstanding issues? I know you talk about the one with the 000.
Yeah, well, what we have are a number of failure to meet and treat. As I would have indicated, the industrial relations climate in T&TEC is very, very poor at this point in time, very poor. And the thing is, that was facilitated by the previous board. It was facilitated because even at the level of the board, instructions were being given without any sort of a consultation with the RMU. And you see, people
Where's RMU?
People need to understand.
Registered?
Recognized majority union.
Okay, recognized.
Once there is a recognized majority union in an organization, the law instructs that parties are supposed to meet in good faith, and that's the thing. A lot of time the commission will meet with the union, but it's not in good faith. That you understand is just to say we meet. But when we meet, we have no information, little information. We meet, we talk about one thing, then you go and do something else after. A simple thing as the vaccine. We would have met in November and December on the same issue of vaccine for our temporary workers. And the commission, at the end of that meeting, there was a commitment that vaccination would not be a requirement for re-employment of the temporary workers. Lo and behold, in January, the commission decided, without any further consultation with the union, we're going to implement this. It is now needed.
Okay.
Right? It saw a number for temporary workers being outside, but obviously because of the persistence of the union in this particular matter, what transpired is in March, early March, I believe it was, the commission eventually, they took back that position, and those that were affected came back into the organization. But that's something that we have been treating with for quite some time now. You see? So there are a lot of matters at the court related to non-filling of vacancies, the commission's failure to promote workers. You have workers that are leaving, be it through attrition or whatever mean, and these positions are not being filled. Instead, what seems to be the order of the day, the commission is acting, everybody acting. And another critical thing, what we're seeing for quite some time now is instead of the commission engaging in succession planning, what the commission is doing is, after you have a worker working most of his life in the organization, at the point when he's supposed to go home with his family and enjoy retirement, he is now being brought back in as a retiree contractor to fill some of these high vacancies in the organization, right? Obviously, that puts a strain on our pension plan because they don't contribute to the pension plan. All of these contractors that are working.
But they wouldn't get nothing from the pension.
Well, they are paid as pensioners, obviously, but then they are brought back in. Apart from their pension payments,
they're getting extra money now.
Yes,
when
and
when there are people inside that could do the job that you get promoted.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
I get you. Here's two quick ones because we kind of getting close to time. Do you like the police service and the fire services and some of the other the ambulance services? Do you have a graveyard for your vehicles? Do you have plenty units of T&TEC pack up in a graveyard?
Well, Mr. Amar, we didn't get an opportunity to speak before this discussion, but it seems as though you read my mind because that is something that I have on the agenda here. And members of the public will notice that there seems to be a number of graveyards throughout the commission's compound. Okay. What you find happening is, let me just give you a quick rundown here. Just a couple of years ago, this commission spent millions of dollars to purchase 22 brand new vehicles.
And that's where I was coming, because I get the information and then we
Right.
pack up
Well, here's what's
something
going on.
with some specification problem.
You see, man, you have the information, and the information is correct. And I'll tell you why it's correct. When those vehicles came here, first of all, what the commission did, they scrapped an aged fleet. They took out the hydraulic systems from the aged fleet, spent, I don't even think we could start to count how much money they spend.
Unnecessary money.
To refurbish those hydraulic systems, put it on new vehicles.
Oh, Lord.
So what you have happening, the same contractor or supplier that would have refurbished, well, that contractor eating a food right through, because there's always breakdown maintenance because of the fact that these are aged systems. In addition to that, after these vehicles were placed into use, workers started to complain. The machine breaks, the truck's still rolling, this happening, that happening. When the union got involved and take a closer look at that situation, what we found is that the commission bought vehicles, and it wasn't even the correct vehicles. So 5-ton vehicles had to be converted to 7-ton. You know what happened after that? You have issues where chassis is breaking. You have metal fatigue taking place, right? There was money paid to bring in an independent person to look into the situation with the vehicles, a consultant. To date, despite numerous requests by the union to get a copy of that report, which would have spoken of the refurbishment of the vehicle, that report has not been made available to the union. The commission had to spend money after to go and do to get another professional opinion because of all of the issues that were happening even after the refurbishment. Now, they provided us with that one because that report would have spoken to the fact, that everything seemed to be okay. But here's what. If I tell you this is my problem, then you would pronounce on that. But you leave out all that would have been done before, right? And when the union had their professionals look into the matter, we realized that even these trucks that are out in the public, and we have been raising this with the commission, is a serious cause for concern. Remember, these trucks, members of the public are exposed to these trucks on a daily basis, right? And as a union, we would have done the responsible thing. We brought it to the attention of the commission. We attempted to have the discussions. And to date, even at the level of the general manager, the board would have been copied. And that report was not made available to the union. Why? What does the commission have to hide?
All right, so as we close, let me just try to fire the bombshell at you because we didn't had all the time. What caused the breakdown?
What caused the breakdown?
Yeah.
Well, the question I would want to ask is, first of all, we need to look at the involvement of contractors in this particular situation.
Okay.
Because I would have spoken to the fact that a lot of money was spent in training our internal crews. Now, the breakdown, a tree fall. The simplest way to put it, a tree fell and came into the phase of the high tension lines, right? That could have been avoided.
Of course.
If our trained persons were allowed to do the work that they were trained to do, that would not have happened.
We have to bring her back here again, because we just start, waxing and time run out already.
Oh.
But I will speak with Ozzy.
Yes.
And put together, because we have to bring two very important people back here. Yourself and, of course, Communication Workers Union. Because I think we are at the point where you guys have your positions fairly well carved out.
Yes.
And we need to bring resolution. We need to get the government and the ministers to understand that they can't keep fooling us all the time.